Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, testing. Testing, testing, testing. Testing, testing, testing. Testing, testing. Test, test, testing, testing microphones.
Can we get ready to start the meeting? Thank you for making it. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mr. Butler, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Please pledge with me. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let's begin. I assume everyone has had the opportunity to read the minutes of the last board meeting of October 14th. Do I have any comments, questions, or a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor then say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. As far as the executive committee minutes, we are going to move those into next month's meeting. We do not have a quorum for the executive committee, but we can continue on with the action items that we have. So we'll move the approval of those minutes to the next meeting. Okay, action item. Let's move on to the action item itself. Approve executive committee recommendations on the chief executive officer's annual evaluation and amendments to the employment agreement. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to look at that. Let me first start and say thank you to every one of the board members for all their focus on providing input to Beth's review, and I must say that they were stellar. Everything that we've seen, everything the executive committee looked at, absolutely showed that Beth, in a very difficult time, did an outstanding job, and we really all appreciate that. We also reviewed some information from outside consultants that talked about salaries to give us a grade and level on where we are. We'll talk more about that again next month in our December meeting, specifically to staff. But to Beth, what the executive committee did was to really focus in on two things. One, the performance that was done. And two, to be quite honest with you, looking at in case anything should happen and we'd have to replace Beth, what would the requirements really be? And so that led our discussion and led us to where we are, to where we came out, and where we were, what we've accomplished, and what we believe is an appropriate salary adjustment, and there are no bonuses, as you know, we wouldn't do, but there is but we are looking to adjust Beth's salary to meet that, to meet all the expectations and to move forward, as well as to ensure that, God forbid something happened, we were in the range of where we needed to be as we would look for a replacement if that were to unfortunately ever happen. As you can see what the salary was, and I can't seem to find it here. Here's the minutes of the executive committee. Hang on, I'm sorry. As you can see, if you looked at the minutes of the executive committee, you would see that there were ranges in which we looked at it in different, and had the consultants look at it in different organizations, anywhere from Broward County to Miami-Dade and Palm Beach, really seeing that those were probably the most relevant for us to look at. And so the executive committee proposed a base salary of $200,000 for FY 2021-2022. We also, in this discussion, and I'd like to keep this combined if possible, we also, in that discussion, looked at what made sense from a perspective of providing direction and providing a look at what goals and objectives should be in the future. One of the things that I asked that we review was to get the board more involved in those goals and objectives, to have the board approve those goals and objectives in the future so that we're all online and there are no questions at any point in time as to what the goals were. And then we can really hone in on what the future, what the expectations and what the outcomes really were. So I've asked to add to Beth's contract a change in the wording that allows us to say that we will be, as a board, will be approving the performance or the metrics of which we'll be reviewing Beth in the future. I've also added to that, or asked to add to that, what I call stretch goals. We've gone along and done very well and gotten very accustomed to meeting the goals, and the staff have done a fantastic job. In fact, as you saw last month, the board already began to, or the staff already began to exceed the goals that they had already set. So what I asked for is to also help us, as we look at this going forward, to meet the objectives that the board has put in, that will put into place and have put into place in the past, to put out some stretch goals. Those stretch goals, what we're looking for, and it's not usually done in a government service or a non-for-profit environment, but what we were able to find is that we could create, and not based on salary, not based on bonuses, not based on anything financial, but to say, let's do a little more. Let's see if we can stretch a little bit further. A good example of what that was, in fact, we were presented that last month when Linda actually was walking through all the different areas in which we've been focused on the strategic plan and where we were. Some were ahead, some were at those areas. Well, that's what we're looking for. We're looking to try to, with this goals and objectives, to create an environment where we're pushing to go further than what our standard goal is. Not out of reach, not so far that it could never be met, but enough to say we've stretched a little bit further. We've made a stronger attempt, which will require us to spend a lot more time, I think, and a lot more focused time with the third parties that we work with, to really work with them to create a more synergistic environment, to get them more involved, to understand what we're attempting to do. And then as we go forward, we'll be able to have, I believe, better measurement on what we're attempting to get to, and allow us to also really take good hard looks at where we can succeed, and where we're not succeeding, or where we may have to make major changes. And I'd like to talk a little bit more about that later on during this meeting, if we can, and have time for it. So let me open this up if there are any questions to Beth's the recommended salary. And yes, Commissioner.
Thank you for the summation. One question that I have, and I should know the answer to this, but is there other compensation such as car allowance, et cetera? Because that's not listed on the...
No, but that is, yes, there is. And it's standard to what the state provides in all other organizations. Maybe I can ask for a little help on that. Linda, do you have that? Or I'm sorry, Colleen?
Yeah, she has a car allowance. She's always had the car allowance. It's the same as Dr. Biddleman had. I believe off the top of my head, it's $700 a month.
I'm sorry, what is the amount?
$700 per month, flat fee, and then there is no reimbursement for mileage on top, so $700 per month.
And how does that compare with the other counties?
It's in line with all the other counties. It's not more, it's actually right in line.
Okay. And that's the only other compensation
That was
other
the
than
only
the
other,
typical
yes,
health insurance
exactly.
and deferred?
I don't believe you have any
No.
reimbursement amount for cell phones unless you get it through the regular personnel policies
Right.
that all employees get. There's nothing in your contract
I do because it's.
for all employees.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about deferred compensation or 457s or?
No, there's no deferred comp. She's just in the senior management class.
Okay.
Through FRS, just like all of our prior CEOs.
Okay, thank you. And then the only other comment I would make is that something I talked with Beth about. I know we've done a salary study for the rest of the staff, and so I want to assure the staff that we will be proceeding ahead with that as well, because this is 13% increase, and so I just want to make sure we're being fair.
In fact, next month's meeting, we'll have the consultants in as well to talk about what their findings were and give us some input and some of their recommendations. Okay. One last thing I was remiss in saying, we twisted Beth's arm during the executive committee meeting. I bet it does. Beth, we talked about in the past of how long a contract would be. And so we asked Beth nicely that she extend that. She originally thought about a 2-year contract. We asked her to extend for 3 years. So that will be added into the contract as well. Yes.
The only thing I wanted to add is to confirm that in the event something does happen to Beth, or when the time comes to replace after a retirement or a separation, I think it is critical to be comparable to the other children's services councils throughout the state that have similar budgeting and pricing. I know that's been an issue in nonprofit, whether on the high side or the low side, but I think to stay right in that range is a really good administrative board decision right now.
Correct. And that was a major discussion at the executive committee meeting to ensure that we were. And if you look at the references, it's difficult at times to try to match up where they are, some larger, some smaller, but that was a very much a major portion of our thinking at the time.
I wanted to add one more thing that sort of follows along with Commissioner Seal's comments, and that is that the annual leave that's included in my package all comes in at October 1st. None of it can be carried over. So you're not going to have one of those situations where somebody has a half a year of comp, which has been one of those unseemly ways for people to leave, I think.
Any other questions?
Move to approve action item 3.
Motion, do a second. Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Again, what I asked Beth to try to do this time was to make the first pass. It's different. It's not the same thing that they've been doing over the last few years. So so I've asked her to really take a good shot at it. We can refine those as we go forward. And so this first year is really more of the test period, setting of the foundation. And as we move on and staff and Beth get more comfortable with it, and we put on so the providers get to really see the impact of what it's going to be, we can then hone those goals and really again move towards finding real measurement for the success and helping to identify those areas where there's not a lot. And then decisions, logical decisions. Yes.
I apologize, but I have another county commission meeting at 9:30, so I'm going to be departing, and just would respectfully ask if there's anything that comes up later in the meeting that might be controversial, that it wait for a full board to have a discussion.
Okay, there's only one other thing. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. There's only one other thing if you've got 15 minutes, so maybe we can get it in real quick, unless you have to leave right this minute. Even 5 minutes.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm asking that, the reason why I'm asking that is that we've all read about what's happening between DCF and Eckerd and others, and we have actually in the audience today Dennis Miles, who has been given the task come in and to help rectify and work through the situation that we're currently in, that DCF is currently in, and that we're participating in. So, Dennis, please.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes. Is the mic on? Yeah, good.
My name is Dennis Miles, and I just wanted to, I probably should have called ahead and let Beth know I was coming, but I found out about this meeting, and I said, you know what, I think I need to be there. So I kind of showed up unannounced. But I'm Dennis Miles. I'm the Regional Managing Director for the department in the Southeast region, which is Palm Beach, Broward, and the Treasure Coast. And, you know, I was appointed the regional director there back in December of 2011. So next month makes 10 years. I'm the longest serving regional director in the history of the department. And I only tell you that to let you know I've been there. You know, what you're going through here in this community, I went through that. One of my circuits in Southeast region is Broward County. And we went through almost an identical experience to what you guys went through. And we built what's become known as the Broward Road Map. And, you know, despite huge deficits that were taking place in Broward County, and we were asking for risk pool money every year, we needed back of the bill money every year, we put together this plan, which was the road map, and we recovered. And now our CBC in Broward County, in fact, all my CBCs in Southeast region have robust surpluses. Everything's going very well. So earlier this summer, I was asked to go to the Northeast region because they were having some issues. And so I spent about 4 months in the Northeast region, Jacksonville area, trying to help them. They had just transitioned away, which is a polite way of saying the regional director there was let go. And they asked me to step in, and I had some success there. Literally left there, was pulling into my driveway, and I got a phone call before I even got into my house that said, would you be willing to go to the Suncoast region and introduce the road map to Suncoast and try to help them with some of the issues they have? And I said, you know, give me a 2 weeks leave and I'll head to Tampa. And I did. So that's what brought me here. And in fact, we had what we called a launch meeting for both Circuit 6 and Circuit 13 to talk about the roadmap, the concept, and how we can start digging out of the situation that, you know, this area has found themselves in and have been in this situation for a significant amount of time. Beth actually attended the Circuit 6 meeting that we had. And we probably had about 70 people from Circuit 6, either virtual or in person. And we had over 100 from Hillsborough County, Circuit 13. It went very, very well. The feedback I was getting, as soon as that meeting was over, I had a whole bunch of people sign up for one-on-one meetings, had a whole bunch of people calling me, saying, you know, I want to talk to you, I want to be part of this. But I will say this, it was 100% positivity. People saying, we want to do that. We need this, we want to do it. And so that's why I was here. And then all of a sudden, Monday, the bottom fell out, and everything you've read in the newspaper, and all of a sudden we're changing out the CBCs, and the regional director here has transitioned away, and so they asked me, as they did in Jacksonville, will you become the kind of temporary regional managing director in Suncoast, which I said I would absolutely do that. I don't know how long I'm going to be here, but I've committed to the secretary that I'll be here as long as they need me, okay? We'll get it done. So the reason I'm here today, now, you know, the department being the department, they gave me like talking points. I'm not good with talking points, okay? It's too canned, it's too scripted for me. I like to just be able to, my first goal of being here was just to introduce myself, to have you know who I am. I get to meet some of you. Beth and I already have a meeting scheduled based on the roadmap that we were pursuing next week. But we're going to try to just, you know, we're going to continue that relationship. I plan on trying to be as active as I can in your meetings in the future. But we're going to get this done. I can tell you on the DCF side, okay, we're all in. From headquarters, We have all of our administrative staff here. We have finance staff here. We have operational staff here. We are pouring through the books with Eckerd. We're looking at everything, turning everything over, taking a look at what's happened and what's going to happen, and putting a clear plan in place to make this transition as easy as we can. But it's going to be tough. And with Circuit 6, obviously, the contract ends December 30th. So that's not a whole lot of time to make, to get a new lead agency in place. We are talking, we're looking far and wide, approaching people to see what the interest is out there of who might want to step in. But because of the new, I think it was Senate Bill 96, if I'm not mistaken, some options are available now that didn't used to be there, that where if we don't have it nailed down by December 30th, the department can step in and basically become the lead agency until such time that we do get somebody on, which means that would be me and my staff here in the Suncoast region. We would become the lead agency until such time that we procured one. We are putting out an emergency procurement that should be on the street any day now, and we'll see what that brings back to us. But I can tell you on the department side, the staff that I'll be leading in Suncoast, we are all in. I mean, this is not seen as a negative. This is, the way we're looking at this is an opportunity. And as I've had meetings and phone calls based on my experience with the road map here, every call I've had has been positive. And in fact, if anything, the response has been, well, it's about time. That's what I'm hearing from the community. Well, it's about time. Let's do this. So we're not getting any negativity at all. We're getting people all over the community saying, how can I help? How can I be part of this? We want to jump in. We've never been involved. Some people, just had this kind of an attitude of, it's just not working. We haven't been jumping in because we're at our wits' end, what have you. And now those people are saying, how can I help? Let's get together as a community. And I want to say this, because this is really, really important. This road map that I keep referring to has taken on a life of its own, and it's got this reputation that is probably more than it deserves. The road map, the plan that we used in Broward County, was nothing more than having all the components of the child welfare system come together and say, these are the metrics, these are the things that we need to be achieving and reporting out and to the community what our progress is. It's just a roadmap. But the key to the success that we had in Broward, that wasn't it. And I've told everybody all the way up to the secretary, the key was the community. Broward County was a completely privatized community, unlike my other two circuits. They took ownership of that. They were very prideful of being a completely privatized community, and they did very well for many, many years. And then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, things went south, and it got bad. And for a very brief time, we had a fracture in our community. We had people, I called it the blame game, okay? Nobody was taking accountability for what happened. It was blaming somebody else. And there was a fracture. But when it got real serious, that community came together. The relationships were reestablished. And we came together as a community, and that is what solved it. Not the metrics, not the roadmap. That was just a vessel, a vehicle to track the progress. It was the fact that the entire community came together and said, let's fix this. And all of that kind of sniping that took place prior to that ended. We ran the whole roadmap through the Alliance, and our Alliance meetings were packed. We met monthly, and we really talked about what progress we were making. Sometimes we took 2 steps forward and 1 step back, okay? But we talked it through. Where are we at? What do we got to do? How do we come together? And, one of the things, many of you probably know Mike Carroll. He was my colleague long before he was my boss. He was the regional director here in Suncoast, a good friend of mine. And then he became my boss. And my biggest challenge at the time, and I say this to Mike, was, Mike wanted things done overnight. And I used to say, we didn't get here overnight, and we're not going to fix it overnight. We need a very consistent, deliberate approach moving forward. And if you give us that time, it's going to work. That's what we need to do here. The community needs to come together, and it appears that they have. As I said, 100% positivity, at least what's been relayed to me. The community is coming together. They are absolutely, they want change. They want to get out of this. And I think as we get together as a community and we really work on this together, everything will start to fall in place. But you guys didn't get here overnight. I can tell you this, as we were coming out of our mess in Broward County, you were entering yours. There was an overlap period. I remember it clearly. There was an overlap period where we were still fighting to get out of it, and you guys were starting to see the beginnings of where you're at now. That's how long you've been struggling, okay? And so, I said it at our meeting that Beth was at, this is hard. This is difficult. The children that we serve are affected by what's happening here. The families that we serve are affected by this. The staff, they're dying. I mean, we're in this transition, we're not just talking to the leadership at Eckerd and at the CMOs. We're talking with the staff. They're ready to bolt. They feel like they're on the Titanic, and they got to get out now before they sink. We're talking to everybody. It's so difficult on the staff. And then the leadership in all the organizations, the community. This is tough. I remember what it was like. It was even embarrassing that we were having these discussions, that we were not doing the type of things that we were capable of doing. And we brought it together with that in mind, that how much stress is on the entire system, and we said, we got to get out of this. And it was not the metrics that drove it. That it helped. That gave us direction. But it was the community involvement that said, let's do this. I can tell you, I'm just meeting the Suncoast region. I don't know, I knew a few people there, but I don't know a lot of the leadership team there. And we've already adopted, a motto, and it's, we got this. This is positive. We're not looking at this with our tail between our legs and defeatist attitude. That region is stepping up saying, we got this. How can we help? People who are not even in roles necessarily affiliated with child welfare, but they're part of the department. They're saying, how can we help? Can we shake a few people loose that will, we can bring over to your side and you can assist? So that's the kind of attitude that we need. And, the support that we can get from you guys here and from the entire community will make all the difference in the world. It absolutely will help us solve this problem. It won't happen overnight, but I guarantee you in a pretty short order, you'll start to see trends, okay? You'll see the trends that are starting to move in the right direction. And once you start seeing those trends moving in the right direction, it will literally over time start to have a kind of a snowball effect. It'll just start getting better and better. The department's going to step up. We need the community to step up. We're going to look far and wide to make sure that we find a lead agency that's going to step in and be the type of leader of the child welfare system that we need in this community. So that's why I wanted to be here today. I just wanted to introduce myself, let you know what's going on. If anyone has any questions, I'll try to answer. But again, I don't know this region real well yet, and all of this just broke 2 or 3 days ago, so there's not a whole lot of answers. But if anybody has any question that you might want to ask me, I'll try to answer.
I just have one quick question, Mr. Miles. So I was told that when the Eckerd Connects left Hillsborough, Circuit 13, that there were no other bids that were submitted, with no other people, no providers that were, stepping up to the plate, if you will. And my concern is, in Circuit 6, do we have people out there that would be potential candidates to come in and replace Eckerd Connects?
It's a great question.
There's a lot of wheels or spokes in the wheel. for this whole thing with the independent providers and everything else. So
That's a great question. And I can tell you that, the whole CBC privatization concept was built on the idea that you would have competition. And we haven't really seen that in various places around the state, but particularly here. That was one of the first questions I asked is, has there been any interest? Has anyone indicated they would like to step in that role? And initially I was told, not really. There's been no competition. It's just Eckerd. And so they just continued to roll down the street as they are. Over the last 2 or 3 days, I can tell you there's been quite a few inquiries. People saying, give us some more information. We might be interested, that type of thing. So we're not down that path too far yet, but we're finding that people are starting to say, yeah, we might take a look at that. And so I don't know where that's going to lead yet. There's a lot of conversations taking place. This has happened so quickly. My life changed on Monday. I was here for one role and I was loving it, and all of a sudden, this happened, and now I'm in charge of the region. And so all I can tell you is there has been some interest expressed from different providers out there who want more information. All they know really at this point is what they've read. And so they've got to make, they need more information to help make decisions.
So let me express one other concern, and really maybe this isn't the appropriate forum for it, but I'm the state attorney here in Circuit 6, and we do the Child Welfare Legal Services Division. We've had contract on it since day one, and it's been very, very successful, one of the most efficiently run ones in the state of Florida, one of the only few ones left. We have had very good efficiency ratios in getting rid of the cases and moving them forward and getting placement for the children. As of late, however, because we've been unable to get the necessary paperwork and reports from the subcontractors through Eckerd Connects, that everything is just bogging down now in the system. So we're not able to take those children and do anything with it, and it's really, really impacting what we do in a very, very significant way, in ways we've never seen before. How quickly can we get a mend in there to start at least moving forward with some of the documentation to allow us to have the judges make decisions?
That is absolutely the role of the roadmap, okay? Using the Broward experience, we literally came to a grinding halt. Now, our issue in Broward, some differences to what happened here. Our differences in Broward was our issue began with our CPI, the Broward Sheriff's Office at that time was in a major transition, new leadership, whole 9 yards, and our removals went through the roof. I mean, catastrophic highs. It was numbers we had never seen before, and it completely overran the system. We had so many kids coming into care that every component, and we always talk about CPI, CBC, and CLS, okay? Every component got to the point where they were at an absolute bottleneck. We could not move cases. Entries were coming in record numbers. Exits were slowing down to a crawl, and in some cases, no exits. So that's exactly what you're experiencing now. It won't happen overnight, and this is what I used to say to Mike Carroll when he was secretary, is we're taking a lot of actions. We're bringing people together to talk about those processes. We're talking with the judges. We're talking with the case management organizations, the whole 9 yards, that we've got to start popping these kids out the other end. But what happens is, even as we started to get some real solid concepts in place and strategies, there was a lag. This lag existed before we started to see the exits and started seeing some relief. And at the same time, we were battling with our sheriff's office. We've got to slow down the removals. We got to find out, why are you removing? What alternatives do you not see that we need to build as a community so that you have confidence that you don't have to remove a child for safety, that tell us what you need. And so all of those conversations came together at one time so that the sheriff's office began to see, look, I have some alternatives. This child really doesn't need to be removed as long as you've got a service array that we can take advantage of and feel that these children are going to be safe. As that's happening, We're talking to our case management organizations, we're talking to our CLS, our attorneys, and putting strategies in place so that we started to see some relief on the back end. That's why I kept emphasizing, and I've been doing this since I've been here, it's only been 2 weeks, we have to allow this to take place, but we need everybody all in. You know, I just had a conversation, I know you guys know Judge Moore, right? I had a meeting with Judge Moore. Yeah, absolutely, she told me. Had a great meeting with her, and I said to her, I said, I know the frustration that you're feeling in court. And she expressed it, and it was the exact same things we had. You know, you got case managers showing up for a hearing who literally picked up that case that morning. And they're the third or fourth case manager that's had that case. Judge would ask some questions, and the person would be like, I don't even know this case. I just got this case. And so what happened? She would continue the case because she's like, well, what option do I have? You gave me no information. So all these issues have to be worked through. So, you know, and she expressed, I mean, we had a great meeting, and she's like, I'm going to do everything I can, you know, and we'll work with your case managers, and we'll do what we can, but we've got to start moving cases, you know, and there's a responsibility at every component. It's not just one, it's all intertwined. And if we can just get everyone together, and you know, I'm only disappointed. I know for the community that this move with Eckerd is the right move. I know that. It's been made very clear to me. But I'm only disappointed in the sense that it's delaying a little bit. I'm working hard to not delay this too much, that this roadmap work, we start digging in hard, because that's really where we start getting those strategies to move cases and move children forward. Permanency in this area is horrible. I mean, it's just a real problem. So that's the best answer I can give you right now. But everything you just said is recognized. It's acknowledged. Those are issues that we've got to jump in and figure out a way to get cases and children moving through the system in a positive manner.
So what happens to the kids in the meantime?
In the meantime, for the next 60 days, Eckerd's still in business. They have every responsibility they've ever had, but we're doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. We're meeting with case managers ourselves. We asked the sheriff's office to go out and do drive-bys, look at every child, make sure that every child we have is accounted for. Okay, we've got somebody at some level sitting with their counterpart at Eckerd. Okay, so even though they're still in business, they're still operating, we've got somebody paired up with that particular department to make sure everything's moving in the right direction. And I think that's the only way to move forward. Is we are, from the department side, we're all in. And like I said earlier, we've got an entire team that has descended here from headquarters. Our deputy secretary is on site. You know, she's leading conversations every single day with every component of the system. So while we understand Eckerd is still in business and they have a contract till December 30th, we're not waiting for December 30th. We are in place. We are monitoring everything. We're involved in, you know, big issue here is our kids in offices. You know, we sat outside an office the other day just to see who came out of the office at 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay, we're not just, you know, it's trust but verify kind of thing. We're not just saying, okay, tell us that there are no kids in the office. We want to see that there are no kids in the office. You know, and we got a big issue here with, okay, they're not in the office, but they're only in night-to-night placements. So what are we doing about that? We've reached out statewide. We're asking every region in the state to identify every conceivable placement that we might move somebody from here to there, just so that they have some kind of permanency and not night-to-night. Well, we'll drop them off tonight. They'll stay with a foster parent who's agreed to take them as long as you pick them up tomorrow morning. And then our question is, well, what are they doing all day? You just picked them up in the morning, but they still don't have a permanent placement. So what are they doing? Driving around? I mean, we don't, we're all over that because we want to make sure that we have accountability on these children, and whatever amount of staff it takes on our side to make sure we can identify that accountability, we're going to do that. And we are doing that.
Any other questions or comments? Dennis, thank you for taking the time to come and talk to us. As you can see, we are very concerned about where we are. And I think it goes without saying this board is very supportive of getting a fix in and getting it in as quickly as possible to ensure that the children of this community are not left behind any worse than they are today.
Absolutely.
So while we're here, we'll, please continue to work with Beth and the team, and feel free to work with this board as well as we will work with Beth to make sure that we'll do everything we possibly can in support of this transition.
Okay, the final comment I have, I would like everybody to have my phone number. My cell number is 561-215-0037. I'm a night owl, usually watching a basketball game or something on TV. Call me at your convenience anytime about anything. I don't always pick up on the first call because it seems like everybody in this state and country is trying to sell me an extended warranty. And I don't know any of you, and so I don't know your numbers. So I don't always pick up the first time, but if you leave a quick message, I'll call you right back. And my email is dennis.miles, M-I-L-E-S, at myflorida, just F-L, families.com. Don't hesitate to reach out. Again, I can't speak for what happened in the past. I plan on being present. I'll be at meetings. I'll be wherever you need me to be. I'll answer every question to the best of my ability. I just want to work with everybody and move this thing forward. I mean, I've staked my reputation on it. I've told the secretary we will solve this. We will get it done. It's going to take a little while, but we will get it done, and it will be acknowledged by all. So it's what the kids deserve. It's what the families deserve. We just need to do it. So, as I said, we got this.
I really
Okay?
appreciate what
Thank-
you just said about you're not here to talk about the past.
Right.
And I try really hard never to look in a rear view mirror, but look in the windshield. But just so we acknowledge, in this community, we have been raising our hands for quite some time. I've been one of those hands that's been raised since I'm on this board to raise my hand and said something is wrong. And so I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you have a roadmap. And maybe what you've learned in Broward and what you've learned here would prevent this from happening someplace else when it could have been addressed some time ago. So thank you.
And should have been addressed sometime. I'm with you. And last comment, and I apologize. I tend to ramble, so sometimes you got to do this to me to cut me off. I want to say this, that this is absolutely my philosophy. It's well known. My bosses accept it because it is who I am. I'm 63 years old. I once retired from the department. Okay, they asked me to come back. And so that gives me some leeway to say what I think needs to be said, because they know I'm perfectly okay with going home and getting on my boat and living my best life. I say what needs to be said. And one of my philosophies has always been, it's region first. Yes, I work for the department. Yes, I have to have a certain loyalty to the department and to the leadership in Tallahassee. But when I'm in a role in a region, in my region will tell you in Southeast region, you can call anybody. It's region first. My loyalty is to the region, us. We got to come together, and I will fight. They know I will fight. They will know that I will say what needs to be said, including the funding issues that are taking place in this area. I'll fight the fight from the region perspective. You know, I've got your back. There are certain things, certain loyalties I have to my bosses. I understand that, but they understand me. They know me. They know I'm outspoken. They know that I'm maybe a rebel in some sense. But I'm here, and I've made it clear, if you want me to be here, then you have to accept that. We're going to come at you. We're going to tell you as a region what we need and what we need to do to move forward. So I'm working with you. You got, it's region first. So Suncoast region has to be united. We have to come together and we have to speak as one voice. And if we do that, we're going to make positive change. Okay? So.
Again, thank you, Dennis, for coming, and again, you're always welcome to come back, and we're looking forward to hearing more about the successes and the changes that are in place, but most importantly, the successes and the execution of your plan. So thank you again.
Thank you very much. I wish I could stay longer, but we got a lot going on.
Thank you. That's right.
Thank you. I had my glass. Okay, there.
Thank you for staying.
Thank you. Glad to meet you. And I'll try to meet everybody one-on-one as well. It's just going to take a little bit of time. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. After that somber discussion, let's move on to the legislative report presentation. Deborah Pruitt.
Thank you and good morning. Shannon and I are going to tag team here. You can go to the first slide. So what I would like to do is recap where we started and give you some information moving forward on where our 2021 legislative and public policy consensus platform is. Just to refresh your memory, the consensus platform was a first-time concept. Mr. McCurrack, I think it meets your stretch goals concept, so I'm hoping that it has a little legacy opportunity. The concept of the consensus platform was to pre-approve a slate of public policy issues that would allow for some real-time advocacy opportunities on behalf of Pinellas County's children and families, and that allowed Ms. Houghton to weigh in on calls to action and sign-on letters and those types of things. So the first that we were able to participate in was the support of Florida extending the Medicaid postpartum coverage for pregnant women who delivered babies from 60 days to 12 months. That actually happened during session. On March 30th, it passed, or I'm sorry, April 30th, it passed in House Bill 5201. It was also included in the General Appropriations Act, and that should have taken effect July 1st. We were also able to do a sign-on letter with the Florida Policy Institute recommending that the state of Florida accept $35 million in pandemic emergency assistance funds that would help. They came from the American Rescue Plan. They were intended to help families in the TANF program, the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. The recommendation from the Policy Institute at that time was to allow for a $415 a month additional allocation for the month of June and July, I'm sorry, May and June, to families in TANF to give them a bridge to the pending child tax credit that was going to take place in July. The state did not accept that recommendation. Instead, they approved some budget authority on September 3rd to allow for some care coordination services for the self-sufficiency barriers for people in the TANF program, and they're also assisting families who have exposed newborns with case management. So those dollars have been received by the state, and they are currently being allocated. Post-session, because of the real-time access and the latitude that was given to Ms. Houghton, we were able to weigh in on some federal issues, which has always been almost a non-starter in terms of bringing these issues to the board in time for them to have any impact because of the way the federal government calendar works for their legislation. They're ongoing, and we don't have that limited 60-day window. So we were able to send letters requesting co-sponsorship to our congressional delegation representing Pinellas County for H.R. 3115, which is Universal School Meals Program Act of 2021. While the bill has been introduced, it really hasn't moved anywhere with a lot of other bills that are under consideration now that we'll talk about in a little bit. We were also able to support HR 4217. That was a task force that was recommending improvements for unaddressed mental health in perinatal and postpartum health. We believe that that cross-tabbed with our support of expanding prenatal care from the 60 days to 12 months. You see some synergy that's able to happen because of the way this has been structured. And then lastly, we were able to support a sign-on letter with the Florida Policy Institute again to encourage Florida to retroactively receive federal food assistance via the summer pandemic EBT allocation of $1 billion. And I will talk about that in a minute as well, in more detail. I think this demonstrates the value of this consensus platform, that it really does give us latitude as an organization to weigh in high-level pertinent issues, not only for the state of Florida, but in the nation. So in the federal and state public policy analysis, if you will, you have child nutrition, which was huge during the pandemic. A lot of things were happening that were assisting families. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program did a 15% plus up pandemic benefit to all food stamp SNAP recipients. That did expire on September 30th, 2021. There was an emergency allotment of all recipients of those fundings of $95 per month. I can't find anything that specifically says that that was expired, but I believe it expired when the state no longer had a state of emergency on record. The 2021 summer meals via the pandemic EBT, this allowed for children over 5 years old to receive $375 per month for June and July, and then $375 a month was also added for children under 5 years of age on a SNAP card. If a family didn't already have a SNAP card, they received the summer pandemic EBT card, and the money was allocated to that card. On August 25th, there was an additional lump sum provided to those families of another $375 per child. Florida did request the $1 billion allocation. There was some confusion factor on the part of the governor's office. Apparently, they were doing break spots during the summer, and somehow they thought that it would have been considered double dipping for them to ask for the pandemic EBT dollars. That was not the case because it wasn't grant funding. It was actually through the American Rescue Plan. And so that was kind of a confusion factor, but the state has requested it. They will begin issuing those amounts retroactive, and that will start on November 15th over a 30-day period. At the same time that was happening, the federal government was dealing with something that was actually in the Farm Bill from 2018. That's where Supplemental Nutrition Act program resides. That bill directed the federal government to update the way they determine how much benefits each family gets. And they used a very outdated algorithm, and now they have this departure from what used to be a cost-neutral inflation adjustment. Now with the increased cost of food, the cost of food is going to be factored into this algorithm, and that's going to make a big difference moving forward. So the increase in SNAP benefits is going to be 25%. So a family, or a person in a family receiving $121 is going to get around a $30, $36 per person increase. That was effective October 1st. As time goes on, when you build on those increases, families will definitely see a benefit in receiving more dollars in their SNAP benefits. I wanted to give you what I believe is the latest update on the child tax credit status. Things changed last week, and they continue to change every day. Wasn't able to access my phone, so while I've been here, there could have been other changes. But the American Rescue Plan included a temporary child tax credit increase. that allowed families who have children under 6 to receive $300 per month per child, and children 6 to 17, $250 per month. That expanded the tax credit, and it reduced child poverty even after 1 month of payment. And so child poverty dropped from 15.8% in June to 11.9% in July. And I'm going to show you a slide after this that shows you how that money was spent just in that 1 month. Research has indicated that 6 million children were kept out of poverty alone just in July of 2021. So you can see kind of the immediate value of what this was intended. The Build Back Better Act that's currently being debated in Congress, H.R. 5376, extends the child tax credit for 1 year through 2022. It was originally envisioned to be extended for 4 years. That could not be agreed to across the board, so they're taking the 1 year. It keeps the credit fully refundable, and it will allow families to continue to get those dollars on a monthly basis rather than waiting till the end of the year when they do their taxes and they get that lump sum amount of money. This is what is really going to benefit families in getting up and out of poverty and being able to make decisions to purchase things for their family when they need them, expenses that they may not have been able to take. It's going to be capped at $3,600 per year for children under 6, $3,000 per year from children 6 to 17. If it expires after that year, it will revert back to what is current law, and that is $2,000 per child in 2023. So this is a slide, actually from the U.S. Census Bureau, on how the child tax credit funds were spent in the first month that families got them, in the month of July. And I realize it's probably a little hard to see up there, but even with increases in SNAP and summer EBT, the greatest use of the funds in July was for food. And we all know what the increases of food have been now, even more than then, but certainly increased costs for family. That's followed by utilizing the money for utilities and clothing. And my two favorite bars on this slide are the paying down of debt, and putting money away for savings. I think that is the other benefit that families will get in receiving this money monthly. They will be able to begin to plan for that opportunity that they don't know is going to happen down the road, because they are getting money into their household on a regular basis. Rent and mortgage payments are there in the middle. Those are at lower amounts, mostly due to the rental and mortgage assistance that's still being offered to families from the pandemic funding. And then we get to early childhood development, which speaks to JWB 0 to 3 program plan. This is also in the Build Back Better Act, as I know it, of 48 hours ago. In the original plan, this is for universal pre-K for 3 and 4-year-olds. It was set at $200 billion with a 50-50 split, cost split with states. It's set to assist 5 million families, saving them about $13,000 per year in additional costs that they would have in childcare if they didn't have the ability to have a 3 or a 4-year-old in pre-K. It's available to all income levels. It does correlate with our 0 to 3 think tank, and we have our pending competitive solicitations. What is envisioned in the Build Back Better Act is that it's still a state opt-in. The federal funds would be at 100% for 3 years. Then the state share would increase to 40% by the 5th year, and the federal funding would phase out in the 7th year. And then states would be picking up the cost of that program moving forward. And I believe that this was shifted from that 50-50 cost split because they felt that some states really needed an opportunity to ramp up, and that 3 years was going to help them do that. High-quality childcare is also in the bill at $200 billion. It's going to assist working families. It's going to limit the cost of childcare to 7% of their income, and it should expand access to childcare to 20 million children. So essentially what you're looking at is what we have as a K through 12 system now with 13 grades. We would end up with 15 years from 3-year-old to graduation of high school, 15 years of true education.
Deb, I may have missed it, but what do your tea leaves say about what Florida is going to do relative to the universal 3 and 4-year-old pre-K?
That's a good question. There could be any variety of things that the state would do. We currently have a half-day system, a 3-hour-a-day system that is about 86 or 80% take-up rate in the state. They did move the Office of Early Learning into the Division of Early Learning, so they are poised to accept this kind of a program. I think it's going to depend on what the details are and what that's going to require on their part. There's definitely been a lot of focus on early learning this past session. Representative Ansalupas and others in the legislature are making this a priority. There has been a push to ensure kindergarten readiness, and certainly taking pre-K from 4-year-old to 3-year-old would ensure that. You know, interestingly enough, in our country, 50% or less of kids participate in programs like this. In other countries, 90% of their kids in that age group participate. So a lot has gone on in Florida with the varying allocations of recovery dollars, and the governor's office and the legislature don't always have the same opinion on that. So I think that's definitely going to be something that they'll have to wrestle with moving forward in this next legislative session. And so now we come to what some future consensus platform and platform opportunities could be from a federal and a state level. The Child Nutrition Act has not been reauthorized since 2010. It's supposed to be reauthorized every 5 years. So that is definitely something that will help bolster SNAP and other programs. That's typically where the school nutrition resides. So different from a state level, the federal government has a tendency to have a variety of bills filed, and then they pick and choose from those bills to create the Reauthorization Act. The Reauthorization Act isn't started from scratch. They take a number of bills and merge them together, and that's what creates a Child Nutrition Act. Child care industry supports is going to be important moving forward. Lindsay Carson with the Pinellas ELC spoke to the House Early Learning and Early Education Subcommittee and indicated that in Pinellas County, there are 16% of the child care providers that are at the brink of closing their doors. And so for this community, certainly child care, and we know because we're involved in it, is important. And then lastly, we have affordable housing. And that in and of itself is an issue across the board. In my October legislative report, I included some information that indicated that 9 of the top 10 cities that include Orlando, Tampa, Fort Lauderdale, and Jacksonville have had strong rent increases just in the past 2 months. And that was in October. As we're hearing about the over asking price bids on homes, we're learning of people who are having bidding wars on rentals and being willing to pay more than the asking price for a rental because it's in the neighborhood that they're interested in. Now, certainly for our families, that's not a consideration, but it will affect rents. When those over asking price rents increase, it is going to increase the rents moving forward. After the pandemic and rental assistance funds are exhausted, this is going to have an impact on the Family Services Initiative for JWB. And the Sadowski Trust, Housing Trust Fund was secured during the 2021 session, and they did get significant funding. They have $146.7 million for State Housing Initiative Partnership and $62.5 million for the State Apartment Incentive Loan Program. However, the best component that was put in that bill was language that prohibits the legislature from sweeping the money in those funds. Now, they put the language in, they can take the language out. That's going to be Becca's job to follow, because you'll have to watch that like a hawk. They will hopefully continue to go down the road of shoring that up and securing it, and that will have some help. But I believe that JWB's track record in being a convener in this area, I believe that the affordable housing has that opportunity moving forward, and it's definitely going to benefit more than just the families we serve, but certainly the families that we serve. I think that's all I have. And that is all I have.
Well, thank you. Let's hope that they continue to work on these, especially on the federal level. Who knows what's going to come out of that in this, based on all the recent discussions that have been going on, the pushbacks back and forth within all both political parties.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, I think as most of you know, this is Deb Pruitt's last JWB board meeting. Deb has served the JWB Senior Public Policy Officer and Advocate for Children Families for 20 years. Her public service to the Floridians spans over 30-plus years. Throughout her career, Deb has lent her public policy expertise to our organization and demonstrates remarkable acumen related to the legislature and policy issues that could have impact on the JWB's work and at our goals and funded agencies. She built strong relationships with legislators, elected officials, and community leaders at local, state, and national levels. She developed legislative priorities, consensus platforms, countless position papers, responsiveness aimed at ensuring children in our counties have equitable opportunities to fulfill their potential and achieve meaningful purpose of life. Deb, on behalf of the JWB Board and current and past members under whom you served, we sincerely